Hello. In this video we're going to look at the metric system to begin with. We're going to look at what it's constructed with, what the main units are, and how we change those main units. And we're going to look at how to convert units within the metric system. Then we're going to look at how to convert units between the US system and the metric system using dimensional analysis or unit fractions. So let's go ahead and get started with that now. Okay, so here are the notes from this section. And let me get them so they're fit the screen here. And we're going to start out with looking at the metric system. Now the metric system is based on some basic units. And those basic units have to do with length and volume and mass. And those units will then derive everything else. So the basic units are the meter, and we abbreviate that with an M. And the meter is our measure of length. The second basic unit that we're going to use in this class is the liter. And that is simplified with a capital L. All right, and that is a measure of volume. And lastly, we've got the gram, which is simplified as G, and it is a measure of mass. Then once we have those basic units, we can change those units by using prefixes. Okay, so our base unit goes here, and they are the meter, the liter, and the gram. And if you go on into other science courses, you'll see some other basic units, but these are the ones that we're going to use most frequently. Then you have these prefixes, and with those prefixes you're going to use one of the letters, or in this case, two of the letters. And the deca, anytime you put a deca in front of a meter or a liter or a gram, what that means is you've got 10 meters, liters, or grams. So a deca means you've got 10 of those units. A hecto means you've got 100 of those units. A kilo means you've got 1,000 of those units. So if you have a kilometer or a kilometer, that means you've got 1,000 meters. When you go to this side, you're going to make the units smaller. All right. So instead of making the units bigger, like if we had feet, instead of going to miles, all right, we're going to use kilo in front. And instead of going from feet to something smaller like inches, we're going to use things like deci, centi, and milli. Deci means 1/10 of a unit. All right, so 1 decimeter is 1/10 of a meter. Centi is 1/100th of the unit, and milli is 1/1000th of the unit. Okay? So now, when we want to convert units within the metric system, it's pretty quick and easy because we can use this idea right here. And since everything is based on powers of 10, really all we need to do to make our conversions is to move the decimal point. So for instance, if we have 2.67 kilometers and we want to change that into meters, in order to change from kilometers to meters, we would start from kilo and we would move over to our base unit. And we're going to move 1, 2, 3 places, which means we're going to multiply by 1,000. And the easy way to do that is to take our decimal point and move it 3 places to the right. Just like we did up here to go from kilo to the base unit. And we're going to throw an extra 0 in here. So that means that 2.67 kilometers is 2,670 meters. And that makes some sense. If each kilometer is 1,000 meters, 2 kilometers would be 2,000 meters, and 0.67 kilometers would be another 670 meters. Now, if we're going from milligrams to decigrams, alrighty, and we know it's deci, not deca, because it's just got the D, we go up here and we say I'm going to convert from milli to deci. So I want to go 2 places to the left, and that's what I'm going to do with my decimal point. I'm going to take 56.3, sorry, and I'm going to move the decimal point 2 places to the left. And it's going to give me 0.563 decimeters. So anytime you're converting within the metric system, it's just as simple as using this chart and moving your decimal point to represent the movement that you do on this chart. Now, if we want to convert between US and metric units, we want to use something called dimensional analysis and unit fractions. And in order to show this, I'm going to start out with something that you guys can probably do in your head because you've done many of these types of problems before. And that is, I want to take 72 inches and I want to convert it into yards. Now, many of you would probably recognize that there are 36 inches in 1 yard. So if there's 72 inches, that must mean that we've got 2 yards. Alrighty. But what I want to do is I want to show how to use dimensional analysis or unit fractions to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with 72 inches, and I'm going to convert that into a fraction by putting it over 1, because anything over 1 is always the same. Then I'm going to multiply that by what I call a unit fraction. And I call it a unit fraction because it's equal to 1. And the way I'm going to set this up is I'm going to say, all right, I've got inches here, and I don't really want inches. I'm going to get rid of those and convert it into yards. So one thing I know is that 12 inches and 1 foot are the same. So just like if I had 2 over 2, though that numerator and denominator are identical, so it's equal to 1, here this numerator and denominator are identical, so they're equal to 1. But I've got 2 different units, and now by having fractions, I can do some cross-canceling. The inches will cancel out, and I'll be left with feet. All right, so I've changed my dimensions here by using unit fractions. I'm multiplying by 1 in order to change those dimensions. Well, that's feet, and I really wanted yards, so I'm going to multiply by another unit fraction. And since these are just equal to 1, I can multiply by 1 as many times as I want and not change the value of what I'm dealing with. So I'm going to do another unit fraction here, and this time I want to get rid of feet. So since feet's in the numerator, I'm going to have feet in the denominator, so they'll cancel out. And I want to change to yards. And now I want numerator and denominator to be the same, so I know that 3 feet make 1 yard. Now my feet will cancel out, and I will get the unit that I want, which is yards. And now I can just deal with the numbers. So 72 times 1 times 1 is 72. 1 times 12 times 3 is 36. And 72 divided by 36, and I've got yards now, 72 divided by 36 is 2 yards. So that's how I'm going to set up my conversions between US and metric units, because those are ones that are not quite so straightforward as changing inches into yards. So we're going to have to use these unit fractions. So the first one I'm going to start off with is 18 meters, and I want to convert that into yards. So in order to do that, I need to know how many meters there are in a yard. So I'm going to say I'm going to take 18 meters. All right. I'm going to convert that into a fraction, put it over 1, multiply, and my unit fraction, I'm going to want meters in the denominator, so they'll cancel out. I'm going to want yards in the numerator. Now what I need to know is I need to know what the relationship is between meters and yards. So to do that, I'm going to go to the book. So open up the book here. And I'm going to go to page 494. Notice I've listed the pages where these conversion factors are. And if I look in the upper left-hand corner up here, I see that 1 yard is equal to 0.9144 meters. So I'm going to use that to solve how many yards there are in 18 meters. So let's see, we said that 1 yard is equal to 0.9144 0.44 meters. My meters will cancel. Alrighty, and now I'm going to multiply straight across, and I get 18 over 0.9144, and I now have yards. And when I divide that out, it comes out to be about 19.685. So 18 meters is about 19.685 yards. And meters and yards are fairly close together. And you can kind of see this. 1 yard is 0.9 meters. But that's not the only way you could do that. There's another way you could do this problem. Alrighty, so let me say or. So here I was using, this came from page 494. Or I could take 18 meters, put it over 1, multiply it by meters and yards. And if I go to page 497 in the book, you'll see another conversion factor. Okay, so page 497, down here on the left-hand side, notice it has 1 meter equals 1.0936 yards. So I could use that one instead, and let's see what happens when I do that. So there, we said that 1 meter is 1.0936 yards. So my meters will cancel. And now I can multiply straight across 18 times 1.0936, and that comes out to about 19.685. So this one used the fact on page 497. The one over here used the other fact. And it doesn't matter which one you use. Here we had yards in terms of meters, and here we had meters in terms of yards. Okay, so either one is fine. You can do it either direction, depending on what sort of information you're given on the tables that you're looking at. Okay, so let's go to the next one. We want to convert 210 pounds into kilograms. So we're going to start with 210 pounds, put it over 1, multiply it by a unit fraction. I'm going to have pounds in the denominator. I want to convert this into kilograms. And now I need to find a relationship between kilograms and pounds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at page 497 again. And on 497, we have one down here that has pounds and grams, but that's not what we want. We could use that if we need to. But up here we have one that relates pounds and kilograms. So I'm going to use that one, and it says that 2.2 pounds is equal to 1 kilogram. So I'm going to go back to my notes here. And we said that 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. Now I've got this set up so my pounds will cancel and I'll get kilograms. And I'm just going to divide 210 by 2.2. And that's going to come out to be about 95.45 kilograms. So 95.45. Alrighty. Now let's look at another one. Let's look at 2.1 kiloliters, and let's convert that into gallons. And for this one, when we go to the book, what you'll notice is that there's nothing that relates kiloliters to gallons. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to do a two-step problem on this one. And if I go to page 495, okay, on page 495, what I have is I have a relationship between liters and quarts. Okay, and it looks like that's the best I can do. And then notice I have a relationship between quarts and gallons. So 1 quart is 0.9464 liters, and 4 quarts is equal to 1 gallon. So I'm going to use those two facts, but I've got to get to liters first. So let's go back to what I'm dealing with here. And the first thing I want to do is I want to take 2.1 kiloliters, and I want to convert that into liters. So if we go back up here, all right, if we're at kilo and we want to convert that into liters, I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 places to the right, and I'm going to do that with my decimal point. So 1, 2, 3 places to the right. I'm going to throw in zeros there. So this is 2,100 liters. So that's one part of my conversion. Now I've got a couple of more parts. I've got to take that 2,100 liters, and I'm going to change it into a fraction by putting it over 1. Now I'm going to use unit fractions to convert from liters. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of liters, so I need a liter down in the denominator. And I have a relationship between liters and quarts, so I'm going to put that in there first. 1 quart is 0.9464 liters. Okay, so I went from kiloliters to liters. Now I've gone from liters to quarts, but I don't want quarts, I want gallons. So I'm going to use one more unit fraction, and I want to get rid of quarts, so quarts is going to go in the denominator, and gallons is going to go in the numerator, and I know that there are 4 quarts in 1 gallon. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply straight across. I get 2,100 divided by 0.9464 times 4. And when I do that out, I get about 555 gallons. Now, you may be able to find charts in some books that will give you the relationship between kiloliters and gallons, and then you just have a one-step problem. But in this case, we didn't have that. We had to change to liters first, and then change from liters to quarts, and then change from quarts to gallons. So you can do it in as few or as many steps as based on the information that you have. Now, another conversion that is often done is changing from degrees Fahrenheit into degrees Celsius or vice versa. And there are two formulas for this. So let me go over here to the right and write these two formulas. Formulas. Alrighty. The first formula is F equals 9/5 C plus 32, and the second formula is C equals 5/9 parentheses F minus 32. And these two formulas will allow you to convert back and forth between Fahrenheit and Celsius. So if you've got a degree Fahrenheit, you could plug it in here, do these operations, and you'll get to the degrees in Celsius. Also, if you've got a degree in Celsius, you can plug that in here, do these operations, and then you'll get the degrees in Fahrenheit. So for this problem, we want to convert degrees Fahrenheit into degrees Celsius. So I'm going to use this second formula here. So I'm going to say C is equal to 5/9 times my degrees in Fahrenheit, which is 77, minus 32. And now I'm just going to do my operations there. 77 minus 32 is going to give me 45. And that's over 1. And so I can do a little cross-canceling here. That would be a 1 and a 5. So that gives me 25. So 77 degrees Fahrenheit is 25 degrees Celsius. And typically, instead of writing out degrees, we'll put a little circle up there to show that we've got degrees. Now the last one I want to look at is, what if we want to have miles per hour, and we want to convert that into kilometers per hour? Let's say we're traveling to Canada or down to Mexico, where the road signs for speed limit are listed in kilometers per hour instead of miles per hour. Well, if we think about miles per hour, 65 miles per hour means that you can go 65 miles in 1 hour. That's what that's measuring. And what I want to do is I want to convert that kilometers per hour. So the hour here, that's fine. What I want to do, though, is I want to get rid of the miles, and I want to convert it into kilometers. So I need to find the relationship between kilometers and miles. So if I go back to the book, to page 497, and go down to the bottom here. Here we have 1 mile equals 1.609 kilometers. Perfect. Just what we need. So I'm going to take that back, put it in. 1 mile is equal to 1.609 kilometers. And now I've changed my units from miles per hour to kilometers per hour. I'm going to multiply 65 times 1.609, and I'll get about 104.6. So if you're driving along and you've just gone into Mexico and you see that the speed limit is 100 kilometers per hour, you know that's pretty close to the same as what we have here with 65 miles per hour. All right, so hope that helps.